Hello everybody and welcome back to another visual pattern challenge. Here's our pattern today. Here's step 1, here's step 2, and here's step 3. And your challenge is not just to figure out how many dice there are in step 1 and if you can do that in step 43, but what the total number of dots adds up to that are exposed to the surface. So the dots that you could see if you looked at this in any direction. So for example, in this first die, all of the sides would be available to see. But in this second pattern here, you've got these two faces, one with the fours on it, one with what's behind that, and then the sides, but not the parts that are hidden because they're right up against another die. So tricky challenge today. If you'd like to accept that challenge, pause the video and see what you can do. All right, I think the first thing to do is to make sure that we all know how the numbers on dice are arranged. So I've got a 3D image here, and basically the rule of thumb is that the opposite sides always add up to 7. So here's the one side we're looking at, and if we turn it back to the other, you get the 6. Let's go over to the 4 side. If you look at the opposite side of that, it's a 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. Here's the 2. If you go to the other side, you get a 5. So they're always adding up to 7. So that's something to remember. So, in this first one, we're going to have a 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, whatever that is. I don't think I'm actually going to add up these numbers right now. I'm going to use some visual intuition to figure out step 4. And then here in step 2, we'd have 4s on this side and 3s on the other side that we can't see here. And opposite these 6s would be 1s underneath. Okay. So let's see what's going on first of all with just the number of dice. And I think that's pretty easy to see. We've got 1 and then 4 and then 9. So the number of dice, it's just that step number squared. So in step 4, we're going to have 16 dice, but that's not what the numbers are going to add up to. Now to think about what the numbers are going to add up to, we really need to look at, actually, let's look at step 3. So we've got our 4s here, a big surface of 4s, and that number of 4s equals the number of dice, right? Because you can see all the 4s. There are 9 4s. So we're going to have, in here, this one, we would have, let's see, 16 dice, so we'd have 4 times 16. Now let's think about what's on the other side of that. Opposite of the 4s are the 3s, and you're going to have just as many of those, so we'd also have 3s times 16. And let's see, let's add as we go along. So 4 times 16 is 64, and 3 times 16 is 48. Okay, so that's 112 so far. And then let's think about the other numbers. So we've got 6s on the top, and there are 3 of them here, 2 of them here. So it's really just the step number of 6s that we have. And underneath them are the 1s. So we're going to have 6 times 4 in this step, and then 1 times 4. And then we're also going to do the same with the 5s, and opposite of the 5s are the 2s. So plus, I'm running out of space here, 5 times 4 and 2 times 4. So let's see, this is 24 and 4 and 20 and 8, and all of that adds up to 56. And adding that together, we get 168. So my prediction for step 4 is that all of these numbers that you can see add up to 168. All right, what about step 43? That seems like it's going to be a pretty crazy big number. And what about an equation? I mean, we could do this same thing right here. We could take 43 squared, which we've by now memorized as 1,849, and just sub that in for our step number, or for the step number squared here, and then sub in 43 for the step number, and do all that multiplication and addition again. But I think I want to make this equation first. So let's think about what we're actually doing here. And I'm going to use this sort of scribbling we did here as a model. This is the step number squared. And we have that for the 4s and that for the 3s. So we basically have the step number squared 7 times. We're multiplying it by 4 and we're multiplying it by 3. So that's 7 of the step number squared. So that simplifies this part a little bit. Let's do the same for this part. So step number, step number, step number, step number. So we've got 6 and 1 and 5. That's 12, 13, 14. So we've got 14 of the step number. So I think that is our equation that we can use. And you might want to recalculate the numbers in step 2 or calculate the numbers in step 1 and plug it in. I think this one works. I'm just going to go with it right now. So y equals 7x squared plus 14x. And so when we plug in step 43, this is a little simpler than doing all that multiplication and addition, although I still think I'm going to use my calculator. So we're going to have 7 times 43 squared plus 14 times 43. And 43 squared is 1849. So 7 times that plus, what's 14 times 43 is 602. And 7 times 1849 is 12,943. Add those together and we're getting 13,545 dots that are visible in step 43. Well, how did that go for you? Did you see how the pattern of dice was changing? Were you able to count the number of dots accurately? Let me know. Thanks, everybody.